Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into a really fascinating, almost hidden mechanism of the human mind. It's like a shadow, right? One that follows us in crowded rooms, when we're completely alone, and especially through the glow of our screens. We're going to unpack the psychology of why we constantly compare ourselves to others. It's a primal instinct, and it dictates exactly how we measure our own worth.
Have you ever looked at someone else's life and suddenly felt like your own just wasn't good enough? You know the feeling. It's that sudden sinking feeling in your chest. You see someone's success, their looks, their seemingly perfect relationship, and this quiet little voice whispers that you're falling behind. It is a completely universal, highly introspective kind of pain. But why exactly does our brain do this to us?
Well, imagine walking into a room full of people. Without you even making a conscious choice to do so, your brain goes to work. It starts silently collecting data. It's scanning the environment, taking in people's clothing, their confidence, their posture. And it's constantly asking this one profound question: am I doing well?
And almost instantly, the pace quickens. The mind starts racing, you notice a colleague just got a big promotion, or you see a friend's gorgeous new house, and your brain jumps right to the next, much more anxious thought. Am I behind? Am I better or worse than them? The questions just loop endlessly.
Finally, it zeroes in on the ultimate social anxiety. Where do I fit in? Now, here's the thing. This relentless questioning, it's not a personal failure. Your brain isn't attacking you. It is simply searching for a necessary social reference point. Because, as humans, we understand ourselves not in total isolation, but through our relationships with the people around us. To really grasp why we do this, we actually have to look way back to our evolutionary roots. For millions of years, human survival depended entirely on staying within a social group. Wandering off didn't just mean you were lonely, it literally meant isolation, vulnerability, and danger. So evaluating our social position ensured we remained safely within the pack. If you find yourself constantly comparing yourself to others, know that this is a deeply ingrained biological survival instinct. We definitely need to give ourselves a little bit of grace here. In the academic world, this ancient instinct actually has a name. Back in 1954, a psychologist named Leon Festinger developed what's known as social comparison theory. He established that we have this natural, undeniable tendency to evaluate our own opinions and abilities by comparing them with others, especially when objective standards are totally unavailable. Basically, to know who we are, we look at who we're standing next to. This instinct builds into some very specific ways our minds measure our worth. And it usually starts when we look up. When we look up at someone who appears more successful, which is called upward comparison, it can absolutely inspire us. We might think, wow, if they achieved that, maybe I can too. But on the flip side, it can violently damage our self-esteem and make us feel completely inadequate. Conversely, we have downward comparison. This is when we look at those who are doing worse than us. Now, this offers temporary comfort. We might feel momentarily grateful, sure, but relying on it builds a really fragile, false sense of superiority. We also use something called lateral comparison, and this happens when we evaluate ourselves against our peers. We don't measure our 5K running time against an Olympic champion, right? We compare it against our weekend running partner. We don't compare our beat-up Honda to a billionaire's private jet. We compare it to our neighbor's new Tesla. This type of comparison actually validates our opinions, sets realistic goals, and creates healthy group cohesion. It's the brain's way of reassuring us that we're on the right track within our own circle. But what happens when this ancient, totally natural survival instinct basically short-circuits in the modern world? Welcome to the comparison trap. And that trap usually snaps shut the very second we look at our screens. We have to face a really stark modern reality check here. Social media does not equal reality. This dynamic creates a severe psychological distortion that we face literally every single day. Out in the physical world, we see people's full, messy lives, right? We see their successes, sure, but we also see their failures, their mistakes, their boring daily routines. But online, we are comparing our complete, flawed reality to someone else's carefully curated, heavily filtered highlight reel. It creates a massive psychological imbalance. We actually start to believe everyone else is happier and richer, based entirely on incomplete information. Now, there is a really vital psychological distinction we need to make here between comparison and envy. Comparison is merely a cognitive evaluation. You notice someone has a better job? Okay, that's just neutral data. Envy, however, is the internal, emotional reaction to that person's advantage. It's the frustration, the resentment, that deep feeling of hopelessness. Envy can occasionally show us what we genuinely want,
but it mutates fast, and when it does, it turns destructive.
When comparison becomes the main source of our self-worth, a simple, objective observation transforms deep in the shadows of our mind into a profound and painful feeling of inadequacy. This triggers a psychological downward spiral known as the toxic cycle. It goes like this. Step 1, comparison. You measure yourself against someone you perceive as superior. Step 2, perceived inadequacy. You focus entirely on your weaknesses, asking yourself, why am I not successful yet? Step 3, negative emotions. Frustration and hopelessness start to set in. And finally, step 4, lower self-esteem. You literally begin measuring your actual human worth against other people, which completely drains your confidence and feeds right back into step 1, more comparison. And you know the reason we can never actually win this game? It's because of the moving finish line. We rely on external achievements, grades, careers, follower counts, relationships. But the brain is relentless. You finally land a good job, and your brain instantly compares you to someone earning more. You achieve a huge goal, and the brain simply solves that comparison only to instantly create a new one. It is an endless, exhausting trap. Section 18. The Mastery. Escaping the Trap. It is time to shift from being prisoners of our own minds to becoming masters of them. Escaping this requires a profound framework for personal growth and a really hopeful shift in perspective. You see, unhealthy comparison focuses entirely on self-worth and inadequacy. It asks, why am I not as good as this person? But healthy comparison, it focuses on growth. It asks, hey, what can I actually learn from this person's process for my own development? Comparison itself isn't inherently bad. It is completely about how we choose to use the data. So, to rewire the brain and break this habit, we need some actionable steps. First, become highly aware of your triggers. Recognize exactly when and where you feel this insecurity creeping in. Second, limit your exposure to the curated feeds that spark it. You have to be fiercely selective about what you expose your mind to. Third, separate inspiration from self-judgment. Remember, someone else's success does not ever subtract from your own potential. And finally, take back control. Focus on your own effort, your daily habits, and your personal direction. But the ultimate psychological antidote, the absolute master key to unlocking true mental freedom, is this one simple truth. Compare with your past self. Instead of asking the toxic, unwinnable question, am I better than them? We need to start asking, am I better than I was 6 months ago? Making your past self your only valid reference point completely transforms a bitter competition into a highly effective feedback system. Suddenly, progress becomes measurable. Real personal growth becomes visible. The hidden mechanisms of our mind are incredibly powerful, but we have the power to direct them. As we wrap up this explainer, I want you to carry this final thought with you. You don't need to be better than everyone else. You only need to become better than the person you were yesterday. So the next time your brain silently asks, am I behind? Ask yourself, whose race are you really running? If you found value in this journey into the mind, please like, subscribe, and share this explainer to support the Hidden Mind channel. Keep growing, keep learning, and I'll see you next time.